I gotta be honest, this is one of those days when I wish I could leave the unfinished business alone. I've played a few skateboarding games in my time here, 1 or 2 or 38, and that pretty much means I've played the very best and the very worst. But what we've got today is something notorious. This is a game I've been dodging for a really long time because I've been told to. I've been told to expect the worst, but I can't just run away from it forever. So today, we're gonna play The Simpsons Skateboarding. Normally I'd thank everyone who suggested this game, but whether or not you deserve thanks remains to be seen because I haven't, touched it yet. There's a really good chance that this game is somehow worse than Skateboard Madness, which initially sounded impossible until I started doing my research for this video, but again, we'll see. I'll know by first-hand experience, not by word of mouth. Let's get started. The Simpsons Skateboarding, developed by Code Monkeys and published by Fox and EA in 2002, is one of the most notorious licensed games of all time. Before I talk about anything else, I need to talk about Code Monkeys. These guys were responsible for Asteroids and Centipede on just about every platform under the sun in the late 70s and early 80s. Then somehow, in the early 2000s, Code Monkeys went on to develop around 15 Dingo Pictures tie-ins for Phoenix Games. That's the biggest fall from grace I have ever seen. They have absolutely zero experience with skateboarding or action sports games in general, aside from the Game Boy Advance port of X-Blade's Inline Skater, so I'm not expecting a lot of the logical inclusions we see in 99% of other skateboarding games, and that leaves a little bit of room for forgiveness. I do want to spotlight developer Sam Hackett, who went on after this to design levels for GTA Vice City Stories, Liberty City Stories, and Chinatown Wars. He also worked scripting on GTA 5, and then later he designed for Red Dead Redemption 2. Definitely a huge step up from here. But really, I'm betting this was at least a decently paying gig. It's The Simpsons, so there's no way they weren't getting paid for it. The career mode here is pretty standard. There's a story about needing some money or whatever in a contest about Springfield for $99, but that's secondary. The real formula is go from map to map, completing goals to move on. Yep, we're right back where we always are. Here it's divided into 3 categories per area. There's Skill School, which is essentially just playing a series of tutorials for small money. Then there's the regular open map goal mode with a few familiar things like collect the letters, collect some objects, do some scoring, and side stuff. Then there's the Trick Contest. This is not the normal number-based contest system that judges your bails and diversity along with the score. It's just a flat score threshold, so essentially a 90-second single session. None of it is necessarily complex. It all works, it's a proven formula, and it's handled with the same respect, so generally not off to a bad start, but there's still time. The gameplay is standard, kind of interesting, and 100% not what I was expecting. If you've ever played any tech fantasy skateboarding game at all, it's essentially the same thing. You've got flips, grabs, grinds, and ollie mapped to the 4 face buttons. There's no free spin, so you spin with the left and right bumpers. Manual is done with the typical up-down motions. There's no bigger ollie like no compliant boneless, and there's no wall ride, so that restricts movement a lot, but there are still rooftop areas, big gaps, and long rails. In the way of flips and grabs, we don't get double tap tricks, but we do get double and triple direction tricks, and there's a variety of special tricks. There are also full rotation tricks, and you can modify tricks with a front and back flip using the triggers. It's kind of above and beyond. It's so above and beyond that there's even a quick restart button, which is one of those pieces of skateboarding game logic I thought would be missing. There are a variety of Simpsons characters to skate as, and each one has a dedicated set of stats. Every time you earn cash, you can pop open the pause menu and buy stats in the shop menu. Unlike most of these games where I specifically put focus on the balance and speed stats, this time around the single most important stat to upgrade first is jumping. None of the characters have a base jump stat high enough to land a bigger flip from the flat. That sometimes means they also don't have a base jump stat high enough to land any good flip from a low rail like a curb. You absolutely need that stat to increase, so it becomes a good idea to farm money from the easy skill school challenges. This is a good time to talk about momentum. Unlike most other games of this type, there's no auto kick. To kick forward, you have to hold up on the D-pad or the analog stick. Once you're actually moving, the momentum and gravity systems take over. The longer you move downhill, faster you go. To pull off bigger spins like 720 and above, you need both increase the jump stat and hit a ramp with a high enough amount of momentum. You also have to learn how spinning actually works. To initiate a spin, you hold the bumpers down before you ollie, and the longer you hold it down, the more powerful the spin will be up to a certain point. Exiting from a ramp bottom increases the momentum in the same way that skating downhill does. So half pipes gradually build up momentum as you go up and down, again, to a certain point. One principle identical to other games of this type is that having a full special meter increases your maximum maximum speed, air, and hang time. There's no revert, as far as I can tell, so no revert to manual, but you can just manual at the bottom of a ramp to continue a chain of tricks. Another interesting mechanic is late tricks. This game differentiates tricks prepared right away and late tricks done while already in the air. There's a different score for each type, so that increases the number of things you can chain into a combo at full score value. When you're on a rail and you prep to ollie out, a green arrow will draw in front of the character model, and it shows you how wound your ollie is and where you're going to land. That's one of the things that's handy for kids and people who've never played skateboarding games before. Honestly, I feel like that can be said about this whole experience. None of it is broken, none of it is unplayable, none of it is super uncomfortable, and all of a sudden I feel like I've been misled once again. It's not terrible. It's not even close. It's more misunderstood than anything, and it wouldn't be a bad choice for a kid's first skateboarding game. MTV Sports Skateboarding was way more non-functional, and even Konami's Disney Sports Skateboarding didn't have the tightness or the variety. There's an argument to be made here that this game just gets shit on because of the zeitgeist. It's almost always taboo to give proper credit to games that are widely portrayed to be bad, but this isn't my first rodeo. I've been there, done that, and seen way worse than this. The visuals are hit and miss. The levels, objects, and tricks all look good. It's the character models suffering the most here. Aside from having a few obvious polygons where they don't belong, this game would have benefited tremendously from outlines and cell shading. That's the only thing missing. Making it look more like a cartoon would have gone such a long way in terms of clarity and charm. I'll prove it too. Here's what the game looks like with the reshade comic shader. Immediately, the difference is much better. Even a wonkier plugin like the anime shader still makes it look better. Just not having outlines on the character models at all was a bad decision. It's not the worst looking game I've ever seen, not by a long shot. It's just missing that kind of obvious detail fix. The level design itself is a highlight. There are 10 maps, and the maps are really big, and they capture the feeling of The Simpsons really well. They flow together nicely, there's a good variety of skate park pieces and more creative pieces everywhere. It holds on to the everything is skateable mentality that other games like this do. There are even secret areas in each map that you open by completing a specific goal. These maps, in the Pro Skater engine, would be pretty fucking excellent, so that's 1 point up for good work. The team opted for quality over quantity, and it worked out in their favor. And it's still a good quantity. It's by no means a small game. The audio is genuinely fucking abysmal. The music is grating, terrible, and overpowering. All the original voice actors are back, so there's some good dialogue there, but if you plan on playing this game, then I recommend you first go into the options menu and turn off commentary. Listening to the commentary track call out every trick and bail gets annoying really fast. The fact that you can turn it off is a good thing, because if it wasn't optional, this would be points off for being annoying. It just kind of didn't need to be there in the first place, I think, is what the conclusion is. They didn't need to narrate everything. Finally, there is no real world footage. This is a Simpsons game, that's a given. But putting that to the side, there's not really any Simpsons clips or footage either. One thing this game could have benefited from is hand-drawn show-style cutscenes. If that wasn't possible, that's unfortunate, but if it was possible, then this is a missed opportunity. This game could have been presented in such a clean, show-accurate way, but that unfortunately wasn't the case. Cookie crumbles that way sometimes. With all of that out of the way, I'll go ahead and give The Simpsons Skateboarding a 6 out of 10. I said a minute ago that I felt like I'd been misled again, and I meant that. I went back and looked at the critic reviews of the time, and every single one of them made out like this was the worst game of 2002, and some went further, labeling it one of the worst games ever made. Game Informer gave it a 1 out of 10 and wrote, quote, "After spending a significant amount of time with this product, something that I wouldn't even unleash on my worst enemies, I came to the realization that Simpsons Skateboarding manages to do everything, even the simple of things, completely wrong. Fucking how? Tricks work, stats work, there's a lot of variety. The game functions exactly the way it's supposed to. I genuinely thought this was another situation where the Kid Icarus lookalikes of the world were responsible for bad reputation, but honestly, they just bit off of the criticism that was already available. I can name 3 skateboarding games right here and right now that are objectively worse. Skateboard Madness, of course, MTV Sports Skateboarding featuring Annie McDonald, and Tony Hawk's Pro Skater HD 2012. MTV Sports Skateboarding is the best of that group, and that's being the best of the worst. The other 2 games are objectively 2 of the worst games ever made, let alone the worst skateboarding games. To understand why this game got the hard-hitting shaft it did, we gotta kinda look back at 2002. That was one of the best years for video games just ever. We got Pro Skater 4, Resident Evil Remake, Mafia, GTA Vice City, Warcraft 3, Kingdom Hearts, Wind Waker, and a bunch of other shit that was all eventually hailed as the best games ever made. Simpsons Skateboarding isn't a victim of terrible development or design, it's a victim of the time period. In a year where there was absolutely no room for average, games like this got shafted as the worst ever made because the standards were set erroneously high. We literally never got another year like 2002. It was the single greatest year for video game releases in history. Simpsons Skateboarding stood no chance. But this isn't 2002 anymore. The reason I counted how many skateboarding games I've played is to make a point. I have 38 other games to directly compare this one to, and it sits somewhere in the middle of all of them. It's better than some, it's worse than others, and it doesn't even cut it close to worst game ever made territory. This is Pro Skater 5 all over again. It's actually just a tiny bit better than Pro Skater 5, but they sit on equal ground. Simpsons Skateboarding actually has some forgiveness in the wings, because this was the first and only skateboarding game many members of the team ever worked on. It has something around here that we call quirks of the precursor syndrome. It has obvious flaws that a sequel could have easily hammered out, but I stand that I didn't actually find anything terrible or unplayable. It was just another tech fantasy skateboarding game with nothing I haven't seen before, and it functioned exactly like it was supposed to. I'm comfortable with a 6. I think it's a little bit above average. If that's not what you wanted to hear, then you're probably new around here and unfamiliar with my work. This isn't an echo chamber. This is just a place where I give an honest perspective on games I play. I went into this with extremely low expectations. I was expecting pretty much nothing. In that sense, it kind of blew me away how playable it actually is. I don't know if I would recommend checking it out unless you're like me and just trying to play everything, or unless you're a really diehard fan of The Simpsons. They're a better skateboarding game, but I'm glad I played it. Now that I'm done with that, I still want to do another obscure skateboarding game, but after that, I need to do something I've been pushing off for a while. So next up is Rocket Power games, and then right after that, we're going to do Guitar Hero spin-offs. Should be a good time. If you want to support the channel and help me get new equipment, push the videos out faster, a link to tip is in the description. Thank you to everybody who sticks around and who is new. I'm sorry my mentality isn't always the best. You know, I've got my reasons. I won't bore you with that. But I do appreciate all of you. Until next time, thank you, and have a nice day.